The Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast.
Coming to you from SideQuest Studios, this is The Simpsons Index, episode 280. Hello out there, I'm your host, Elliot J. O'Neill, joined here as always, except when he's not, by BT Calloway.
Unga Bunga.
And Jordan Frost.
Yes, that also to you. And you have some.
And Unga Bunga to us all. Hunga Bunga, every one of us. Yes, we are reviewing The Simpsons and also another show that I hadn't heard of until having to do the research for this episode and wondering what the fuck they were referencing. I kind of just brought this one to you guys cold without researching first, but are either of you a fan of Primal?
Oh, I've ignored that on recommendations, yeah.
On recommendations to watch it or recommendations to ignore it?
No, from the, the streaming services. It's like, you might enjoy Primal. I'd be like, maybe I'll check it out, and then I don't.
I don't think they know what I might enjoy at all.
I feel like it's weird that it's not on Amazon Prime, but whatever.
Yeah. Look, I have to give some credence to recommendations solely for the one time Netflix was like, you might enjoy this show called Love, Death, and Robots. I'm like, fuck, that is entirely my thing. Well done.
Yeah. Wait, you know how to love?
I've heard of it. I like watching stories where people try and explain it.
He's interested to know and to learn more.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't have to get it.
Every day is a school day.
Jordan, have you heard of Primal, or as it's sometimes known?
I think I've heard of it.
Primal?
Yeah.
Jendi Tartakovsky's Primal? Who's Jendi Tartakovsky?
That name sounds familiar. Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of that guy that filmed that whole Russian movie in one take. That was a different guy.
Well, he is Russian. It's Jendi, or might be Gendy Tartakovsky, is a Russian animator, writer, producer, director, best known as the creator for various animated television series. As Dexter's Laboratory.
He did Samurai Jack.
Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, Symbionic Titan, Primal, and Unicorn Warriors Eternal.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I can see kind of the Dexter's Laboratory Samurai Jack kind of influence in the design, character design. Not the lines, but yeah, the designs.
I hear a lot of good things about Samurai Jack. Is that falling under the Elliot category of shows I've been recommended that I've ignored? Have you guys seen that one?
No, but I'm aware of it.
I think I was out of the age bracket for that when that happened. I heard very good things as well, and that it was I have seen a couple of sequences that are beautifully animated, but I never sat down and really watched it.
Yeah, and my biggest exposure is when they announced Tears of the Kingdom's fuse ability, and Jordan sent us that video of a foolish samurai warrior wielding a magic sword, wielding an unspeakable evil.
Yeah. Also, just for clarity, the person I was thinking of was Alexander Sokurov, who directed Russian Ark, which was the first entirely unedited film shot in one continuous take.
Oh.
Which was had everyone in costume. It was through this old Russian palace and everything. It was a big production, but pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think they got it in 2 or 3 takes as well.
Yeah, with 2,000 actors all in it and stuff. It was full on. So yeah, good on them. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today.
No, but who says you can't get some more extended learning happening from The Simpsons Index?
Every day's a school day.
But yeah, so this episode heavily references the show Primal, and they didn't work with them, but they did draw them in the style of. I did watch a little bit of the first episode in between watching this one and coming into the record today. So yeah, basically it's about this big caveman who strikes up a unlikely friendship with a dinosaur when, he's about to hunt it, but realizes she has 2 little baby dinosaurs with her, and then defends her.
They're not so different, you and I.
Yeah, they do that stare down. It's done in that very stylized animation and all that. The Simpsons really did capture it quite accurately and well. But then, the big caveman fights off another dinosaur, coming for that dinosaur and her babies, and then, form a friendship. And
okay. Oh, so it's like that scene at the end of Jurassic Park 5 or whatever, where the Tyrannosaurus and the Velociraptor share a knowing glance between each other. That's not a lie. I'm pretty, is it 5 or 4? Either one. It's one of the Chris Pratt ones. And it's the most cringe thing you could think of, but it actually happens on screen. Yeah.
Oh my
They're
god!
like, you helped me, so I won't kill you this day. And like,
I
walks
respect
off.
you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, from everything I've heard about the Jurassic World sequels, I just wouldn't be surprised if they also did like one of those windmill high fives at the end of that
Yeah.
scene
Yeah.
as well.
In space.
Honestly, like, so I watched 4 and then we watched 6 in theaters just to do something. And
Yeah.
it was like missed 5. There was obviously some plot points that happened in the middle, but it doesn't matter. But
There
it was one of
isn't.
those movies where we were laughing really hard in the cinema and people kept looking at us because it was such a ridiculous, like, what was happening. Because that's the one where they got like Richard Hammond and
Yeah.
Grand back and stuff. And it's like, oh my God.
Yep.
What have you?
Five
what
is
this?
beautifully terrible. I would say it's peak of just novelty nonsense.
We should watch it as a bad movie night. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm for it.
I keep derailing.
That's all right. But we actually might have to watch Jurassic World on the Patreon series at some point in the future, but I'll segue clumsily into plugging that a bit later as I segue clumsily into us reviewing this episode. Oh, yeah. So anyway, Gendry Tartakovsky, I'm going to get that name right by the end of this podcast, acknowledged the homage on Instagram and responded with a drawing of Homer in the primal style. So, yeah, it's... I actually kind of like this episode for doing that. Like, I mean, sometimes it's like, why the Simpsons going after that reference? That's really weird and obscure. But also when it's kind of propping up like relatively new shows. You know, this show's currently in its 3rd season and still like it's nice when cartoons are acknowledging cartoons, you know?
Sorry, they were referencing them, or did they actually hire the studio that made it to do the parts?
From what I can tell, yeah, they didn't work with them at all. They just did it.
I think it sort of works because at least they commit to it and go along with it rather than just like a one-off little shot or like with an intro sequence that is just like done by a guest animator or whatever. This one was like sort of throughout. So I guess, it was sort of...
Yeah, that's a solid point. It actually mattered to the story and the flow of the episode rather than just being a random cutaway gag where it's like, did you get it? We referenced this thing that everyone likes. And it's like,
exactly.
Why are you referencing? Like this one? Yeah. It matters to the story. Anyway, let's work out if it does or doesn't. As we hook into the episode review, of course, this was Season 35, Episode 13, Clan of the Cave Mom. First released in March of 2024, it was directed by Rob Oliver, written by Brian Kelly. In this episode, Luann and Marge are at odds because... Milhouse got tickets to this rap concert, and then he invited Bart, and then Bart tried to get Marge to agree to let him go, but she found out the music is kind of distasteful. But in the process of finding out that Bart was uninvited anyway by Luann for a recent prank, Marge gets all defensive and her primal instincts activate as her mum told her son can't do a thing and was excluded and rah rah rah. And so then the episode sort of cuts back before with the elevating argument and tension between Marge and Luann being intercut with these clips, drawn in the style of Primal of this cave family who are trying to escape this evil Luann-looking werewolf. Hey guys, what do we think
Mixed feels.
of my synopsis?
I mean, it was rambling. You were a little bit confused at the start, but I think you really
Yeah,
brought it
you
home
did
at the
say
end
like
there.
you did say cutting back to rather than cutting between.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was just a big slip up.
All right, let's rank this synopsis.
I'd give it a good 6 out of 10. I'd give it probably a bronze.
Look, I get it. It's tough. It's tough.
So yes, synopsis aside, how was the episode?
Sure. Mixed feels.
Look, to be honest, I come into these expecting Drek. Not just because of like it's New Simpsons. Like I want to give it a chance, but because Elliot, you just pick often ones that turn out to be utter shit for me. So
It's a law of averages by now.
Yeah. Law of large numbers says there has to be a decent one somewhere in there. But look, I didn't hate it. Some of it I feel like they were just doing the bit for the sake of doing the bit rather than like it actually adding anything to the episode.
Like linking into the metaphor at all. Or...
Yeah. Some of it was just like we got to fill some time, it felt like. But yeah, I didn't think it definitely wasn't like a terrible episode, but yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts about it.
Yeah, I feel what you mean about like I don't know what the primal things were exactly adding to it, and the metaphor really fell apart by the end, like especially when at times the episode was being kind of tedious about how much it was forcing. See the parallels here? We're doing the same. It's
How'd
happening.
you tell they're the same?
And even Lisa at one point explaining, "Oh, can't you see your primal instincts are activating, just like that show we're referencing primal?" And it's like, okay, guys, it'd be enough to just go back and forth, stop, like, and it's not even a meta joke that like it felt tedious at times, but a broadly fine episode, I think.
Yeah. Look,
that's the perfect way to describe it.
yeah, it's one of these season 34 plus episodes where they're taking these big swings, and I think this one is, works for the most part, but at a certain point, when are these kind of big shifts and big swings going to become a burden to the show rather than a boon?
Yeah.
And it feels like maybe we're starting to get into that territory where every episode you make has to be something big and bold and different to really get people's attention. When are you just doing that? Not because you have an idea, but because you're expected to.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I gave him props earlier for picking something like Primal, which seems to be, new, well-liked, hyper-stylized, and I think they did make work. It wasn't one of these things that I think The Simpsons did a bad job, and it does seem like a nice tribute and a way to prop up a new animated show. But yeah, when we're at the stage where we're also picking Primal and Death Note, and when are we going to run out? And The Simpsons are just like, fuck, what did I see on Netflix last night? Because sometimes that's how the worst of the 20s felt in their references,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a thing.
Yeah.
When was this episode released again? Sorry, Elliot?
March of 2024, earlier this year, so.
Right, okay. Because I was going to say, because Primal first debuted in 2019 or something. So it always feels like they're a couple of years behind the wave of something, which I know is because of like production times and everything. But just like, I feel like this show, like I remember hearing about it probably when it first came out and everyone was excited about it. And like, that's when they should have done the episode, probably not like 5 years after the fact.
It also takes time for some of these things to have cultural impact. And then,
I guess that's true.
It takes a while for things to come across your desk sometimes as well. And wait, were we recording when we were talking about ignoring recommendations? Yeah, we were.
That's how we started the episode.
Exactly. And this is how we continue the episode. BT, for better or worse, what's a moment that stands out to you from this one?
I'm going to point to maybe my biggest down arrow, which is just kind of the moment I had to pause and be like, you don't do that. Where Marge is, they've got the tickets to this show and she's trying to drive Bart through, and Raphael stops them and says, oh, hey, you got to have your the app here. You can't just have the printout. And Marge is like, calls Homer, is like, Homer, the man with every job and the same voice is asking us. It's like, no, you don't call attention to Raphael. Like, you just let it be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things that was like just painfully self-referential, and in an episode that largely isn't doing that, and in a season that largely isn't doing that, it sucks to see it come back.
See, that moment disappointed me for a different reason, because
oh, really?
This is something, we're going to be funny to the younger generation, and, we already are in a lot of ways. But, my parents still kind of do this, like, print things out. And, it wasn't until a while ago we found out that Dad printed out every important email and was just filling up this giant filing cabinet. And
God.
Likes a hard copy? Yeah, sure.
And posting it to himself, like, so he'd have the stamp.
Exactly. And I feel like they should have set this up earlier in the episode and had a thing where, like, Marge was like, oh, just to be safe, I can't trust these phones, gotta have a printout copy as well. And then again, have this sort of set up earlier, because I think this is a funny thing. Like, you'd feel secure having the hard copy version, but then finding out you take it to the door, it's like, what the fuck do you want me to do with this? Like,
the thing had a QR code on it.
It did, yeah. But I don't know, their printer ink ran out, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
How about you, Jordan? What's a moment that stands out to you from this one, for better or worse?
Mine isn't a particular moment. It's a series of escalating notes that I made that I'm just like, oh my God, there is so much blood in this episode.
Yeah.
There's so much gore.
Yeah.
There's like, in between other notes, I've got lots of blood in this episode. More blood. And again, Jesus Christ, why is there so much blood? And that was for that deer chase scene where Homer's like running through the nettles and stuff.
Oh, look,
and just
I
leaving this
like
trail of blood. I thought it was cool, but I'm like...
Primal Homer chasing a deer through like this hellscape of thorns. I was like, okay, that's cool.
And just, running through it like it was nothing, like it was clouds. But it's
just like him coated in blood, essentially, while he does this. And leaving too much blood on the ground for that to keep going. And then culminating with Homer getting impaled on a rock.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sliding down and his guts going everywhere. And then his severed head sort of stuffed and mummified on a rock at the end of the thing as well. It was just like a very gory episode. And I guess I get it. It's referencing Primal. And it's going to be primitive. And it's going to be, that kind
brutal,
of thing. But yeah, it was a lot more blood than I think I've ever seen on The Simpsons, even in a Treehouse episode. I don't think there's been as much blood in an episode as there has been in this one.
No, that's a solid point. And again, I essentially brought this episode to you guys because I went, I don't know, maybe that one. Because, it was building off the Marge and Luann fight, which I think we covered in that episode before, where she doesn't let Bart come to Milhouse's birthday party. That was us that reviewed that one. And I end up doing a Treehouse horror episode. Happy Halloween, everybody. I did notice, I felt like they might have even been negotiated down of a little bit more blood, because when the kids are eating the snake at that certain point, it's blood and guts are all very purple. I feel like that's one of those compromises you hear about in animation. Okay, well, you can keep this blood, but it has to be purple, and you can't say shit or fuck or dick shit.
What about shit dick?
You can eat the snake's intestines, but they have to be purple.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's also because, I know eel meat is quite light colored. I wonder if snake meat is. Maybe it is purple. I don't know if it's very dark, but either way.
I don't know. I haven't eaten snake. I don't think.
Snake eaters, let us know.
Yeah. Call us Metal Gear. Big Boss. I can't remember his name.
Who can keep track in that franchise?
Venom Snake, Punished Snake. I don't know.
What stands out to me from this episode? Look, I think it's a conceptually interesting idea, and the idea of Marge initially not letting Bart go to the concert until he was told he wasn't allowed to go by another mother is an interesting concept, but I don't know. I'll throw it to you guys. How do you think the fight with Luann and Marge panned out, and do you think it built on their history enough? Or, what do you reckon?
This episode's kind of full of integrity breaks. I guess, what does Luann say? Basically, Bart calls her up after, he finds out he can't go to the concert with Milhouse, and Luann calls him something, a bad friend and beyond hope. That was it.
Yeah.
But also, for starters, think of back to, when Luann won't let Milhouse hang out with Bart, way back in that classic episode, and she's all like, yesterday my Milhouse told me my meatloaf sucks. He must have got that word from your boy. It's that was the extent of it. So to have her suddenly be, to call him beyond hope is just sudden, very sudden and very out of nowhere for her. And it was enough, I think, because they already established, Bart was all excited to go to this concert, and then he calls up and Luann's like, well, you're uninvited because you got Milhouse in trouble at the museum. Yeah. And it's he did that. Why was that not the focus? Yeah, it just seems like it set up a thing and then didn't do that and made an uncharacteristic move instead.
I think they missed the point because they're setting it up as it's Marge's primal brain taking over, etc., etc. But really, Marge is just being childish, which I guess is your primal brain, because you don't let complex thought override what is essentially your gut reaction to certain things. Because when Luann says we thought he would get better, but he's just gotten worse. Objectively, you can track the sort of shenanigans that Bart gets up to from first few seasons to the later seasons, or doing voodoo or whatever to pregnant a horse, to the sort of thing where he destroys cultural artifacts in this episode, for example. He is worse. He is objectively worse.
But,
so
that feels like that should have been the comment that drove this whole fight, because Marge has always had the defense of Bart and always had, he's a sweet guy underneath. Yeah, it just wasn't put together quite well enough. And also, I don't buy that Marge has this primal urge, fine, whatever, but she just seems so too stupid in this episode to be like, oh, you called my son hopeless, I'm going to buy him concert tickets. It's like, you wouldn't jump to that conclusion.
Yeah, I guess that's why I find this story pretty unsatisfying in that way, is that, yeah, there is enough of a history to build on with these two mothers, and yeah, Bart has done something in the episode that, like, yeah, at some point, Marge should realize that's the thing that she's lost sight of, or, I mean, yeah, I know that she didn't know, but she could have found out.
Yeah, pretty
and
easily.
then, yeah, she's also lost sight of the fact that he's going to a concert that she previously said no to going, and then you could build it up as a thing where Marge and Luann had this fight at the forefront of their mind so much that they both realize, oh, this is probably a concert that our children shouldn't be going to.
Yeah, that should have been the final button on them starting the song. Like, oh my
God, I brought kindergarteners here.
Yeah.
Like, I know that we sort of said it was a little bit tired, but when they did the side-by-side effect of, like, Marge driving through the sort of barricades and everything along with Primal Marge, like, running with the spear, I felt like some of those were that was the most effective shot of, like, using it, because every time it was like a cut between the two, it's like, yeah, but you're just sort of retelling like a little bit of the story, sort of, but in like the metaphorical version of Primal, whatever. Like, it would have, I think the episode's pacing would have definitely helped with having more side-by-side stuff, even if it was a little bit more sort of, you know, well, like, yeah, you really see what we're doing, right? But, like, it just would have sped it up a little bit, because I think having the constant breaks between the two, we're essentially retelling the last 10, 15 seconds, but in another story was,
especially when those moments don't line up. Like in the real episode, Marge finds out Homer's still hanging out with Kirk, and she's like, "Oh, you betrayed us." But in the Primal version, the Primal Homer dies defending them, and it's like, this wasn't the same thing.
Yeah, like, there was moments where I felt like, the metaphor was kind of strong, even though they weren't direct parallels, and like going with this idea of, oh, this is a wolf hunting the Simpsons family and how it's running side by side with Marge and Luann's thing. But like, the metaphor does fall apart, unfortunately, when the episode Simpsons is so specifically about a mother defending her kid that's being a bad apple. Yeah. And this is just, a family fighting for survival. And then it wasn't because the thing with Primal is that the caveman has sympathy for the dinosaur who has two young'uns. And then that wasn't like part of the thing there, where the wolf had two young'uns in this one instead. And like, the wolf was just protecting her young. And,
the wolf was hunting to provide food,
Yeah, exactly. I felt like that, especially at the end, that then the wolf was the family's pet. Really, that was my moment. Okay, this metaphor's completely fallen apart. Like, I can take it that it didn't have everything parallel, because, I agree with you, Jordan, that so many times this episode feel like, we're just doing the same thing again. But then at the end, it's like, okay, this fell apart and became uncohesive.
Yeah, I guess they couldn't make it work story-wise, so they were just like, well, this is the best that we can probably do. And
for real.
Or they could have kept it as contrast to be like, because Lisa even says, this is your primal brain reacting, but there is no threat to your child. You need to calm down and be rational. And be like, okay, what the primal are going through, that's a threat. What you're going through is a tiff.
Yeah. Miffed even. Yeah,
I did like that. I've been feeling anger, rage, and miffed even.
I think this is what I would change, but you're right. It needed to be, the stories needed to diverge, because it needed to show Marge sort of accessing higher brain function and being a better person, and then the primal person can still be pure fury, natural savage instinct sort of thing.
But was this a particularly wacky episode of The Simpsons?
I got some notes of whack here.
Yeah.
There was a moment where, Primal Marge rips a tree out of the ground, and I was like, okay, but that's like the primal, that's a metaphor, I guess. That doesn't really count.
Mums lift cars off kids in the
but then it
spur of the moment.
switches to Marge, who just throws 4 children up over a security fence.
And then climbs up and then picks them all up under her arms. Like, damn, Marge is strong. Like,
Yeah, she's doing... Beach, what's that Scottish big log tossing thing?
Caber tossing.
Caber tossing. Yeah, it's covered earlier in this season from A Bonnie Romance, where they do. Like, I think the Simpsons writers got really into caber tossing, because she fully does caber toss them kids.
Yeah.
Following the Caber League.
Marge is definitely like one trip from the car with groceries person. She's not doing multiple trips. She is
Yeah,
everything
true.
in one go lady, like for sure. So strong.
With Maggie under her arm. And,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Well, yeah, that whole freak out at the end, yeah, that was about as wacky as the actual Simpsons episode got.
You know what? Like, yeah, it's a little bit exaggerated, but I wouldn't say it's like cartoony wacky like a lot of the other episodes have been. Like, there were a couple of little things, but like in terms of other things that we've watched, I gotta say this is on the lower end of the scale of like cartoony.
Yeah, which is
stuff.
weird.
Yeah.
Even then, it's referencing another animated show. Those scenes are inherently not that wacky either. Like, yeah, Homer being impaled and stretching out over that mountain bit, but like everything else is like fairly realistic, just stylized, you know?
Do you see Marge's just forehead veins throbbing out of her skull?
Yeah,
Have you ever made your mum that mad? That's pretty accurate.
No.
only once.
I will say, just in terms of animation moments, when the hairs stand up on her arms, I did like the detail that they were blue. That was
Yeah.
yeah, nice little touch there.
Indeed.
Any other cartoony moments or animation stuff stand out to you guys?
The only thing that was, this isn't really what you mean, but I'll say when they're at the cafeteria at the museum, it's the most clip art arsed food I've seen. Like when Bart's like, there's literally nothing to eat. Like the burgers and the pizza and the bags of fries just looks like the same sticker that have been like clone tooled on top of each other, like in the thing. It didn't look good. And I mean, I know it was just a background detail, it didn't really matter, but it was just like, my eyes were drawn to it. Because it was like, what the fuck is this food that they've got here? Looks like it literally looks clip art. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to complain about that just for the integrity break. I don't buy Bart not wanting to eat that stuff. And I feel like it was feels like a missed opportunity for like a joke there somewhere. It'll be like they all have like museum-based food that are all puns and he doesn't get any of it. But it's just a weird little, here are all delicious things. Oh, Bart doesn't want it. He's spoiled. So I feel like he would love this. I'm confused.
He would love fast food. Yeah, for sure.
And hot dogs and stuff. But yeah, actually, a bit where I thought they could have gone harder in on the wackiness is the starting thing with the 4D theater. I don't know. I've never been to one. Have you guys been to a 4D cinema? Or
No.
I mean, I don't know if it was billed as one, but like technically, I think there was one in like Universal Studios or Disney.
I was going to say that kind of thing. I've been to like the Terminator ride, which is like a theater production, but they've got that 4D effect and whatever.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention that, I've been into something like that in like a theme park, but I don't think like one of those like purpose-built ones in a shopping center.
It's not a movie.
Yeah, I know that there were ones that they did like, I think they built it as 5D and they had like Avatar, The Way of Water, and it was like, there was the same thing. It was like
You'll
smells.
get sprayed with water.
Spray. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, that's not, I don't know, that doesn't appeal to me. Also, the seats I'm sure would like damage some people's spines when they like drop you and jerk you around and stuff. Like there's going to be some injuries that have been reported for sure.
Yeah, like it just seems like gimmicky additions that I don't need to the experience of watching a movie.
Yeah, I just want to lie on a couch.
Well, get ready for 5D podcasting. You'll feel every jolt of our experience. Whoa!
You'll feel the spray of Jordan sneezing directly into your mouth.
And spittle, spittle, spittle.
And that smell, that's me. Yeah, that's podcaster stank, baby.
I've been in this sweaty room for 20 hours editing.
Actually, it's not quite the same thing, but those like cinemas that pump out smells to you do remind me of a funny story I remember from IGN where to promote the South Park, I think it was the Stick of Truth, the first like RPG game that they did. They had demos set up with smell-o-vision, and I remember watching a video of like some people from IGN Australia going to this thing where they played Stick of Truth with the smell-o-vision on, but it was just every time you did the fart move it would pump a fart smell right into your nose. And then the guy who did it, Tristan Ogilvie, I think it was, he was asked on a podcast, so how was it? Did you have any lasting effects? That doesn't feel like something you'd want. And he goes, look, when I was lying down at night trying to get to sleep, I felt like a trickle of water go down the back of my throat where I could like smell that fart smell again.
Oh, no. That's, I mean, you get what's coming to you if you trust South Park guys to like do smell-o-vision. You're like, no, this is a prank and I am the victim. I'm not doing this. He's stupid enough to do it.
something that they're only technology they're only testing on eager to please video game reviewers working for major websites.
What can we make them do? Let me think.
Well, how about we move on to the other side of the Simpsons pillars that we like to investigate with the heart. How was the heart in this episode?
It was a present at the very least. There was some, which is more than we can say for a lot of episodes. Obviously, the bit at the end is what I'm mainly talking about.
I mean, it just felt so forced to me by that point where, like, again, I feel like the integrity break is I don't believe Bart would think this was bad. Like, Marge breaks them into the concert and he's like, oh, we should go home. It's like, wouldn't you think your mother jumping over a fence and dodging security would be awesome?
Yeah.
I think if he was watching it, this is the way I can justify it, is that if he was like watching it happen, he might go, wow, Mum's so badass. But the fact that he's in it and he's sort of getting traumatized by like, or even I'm thinking maybe this is a bad idea, but she just goes ahead and does it anyway without even dropping a second.
I could.
But the way that he said sort of like, I can't handle losing the one good parent I've got was sort of sweet in a way. Like, it's backhanded, but it was, nice that he acknowledges that, like, Marge is obviously the better influence on him and that he does, in a way, want to be good for her.
Yeah. But it's just weird because this episode comes close to nailing so many parallels and metaphors and things. And like when it was Milhouse not enjoying the concert that he got to go to because Bart wasn't there, but then it was Bart saying, oh, Marge, look what you've become. And then Marge being like, oh, what a fool was I. That it wasn't Bart going like, I wish I was here with Milhouse. It's like, Martin, Nelson, Lewis, you guys are great. Because, then Marge goes to give Luann the tickets, implying that, Milhouse is going to get one of them. She only had 4, so someone's still going to miss it. And what are they going to do with those kindergartners who are not enjoying the show?
Well, I'm guessing it was Marge and Luann were going to sit together with the kindergartners, like one apiece maybe, and then the 4 kids go in. Yeah. But either way,
that makes sense.
Either way, no. You can't have that unsupervised children.
Bart could have easily just had a line of, it's not the same without Milhouse. He knows which words are dirty. Because it's all in Spanish. So.
Oh, yeah, and Milhouse can speak Italian, and there's a significant amount of crossover between those two. Yeah.
I think the biggest heart moment I actually got
that was an amazing integrity pull, right? Well done, Beach.
I'm good at this when I'm not tired and sick. Yeah, sorry, my biggest heart moment, I think, was there's a bit where Bart pulls Nelson, Lewis, and whoever the other one was, Martin, away from Milhouse's plan to over to his seats because he has better seats. There's a bit where Nelson just says, I'm sorry, I pretended to like you for your floor tickets. And Milhouse is just like, give me the ha-ha now. And Nelson just kind of shakes his head and walks away. And it's like, to be so low you don't even get ha-ha'd at. That's that's brutal.
Yeah.
I did like, Nelson's little thing, like, don't feel sad that we're ditching you. Like, feel happy. I pretended to like you for a few days for your tickets. Like,
It was answering that question that I was having. It was like, okay, Lewis, fine. Martin, yep, that makes sense. Why is Nelson there? Oh,
yeah.
Right. And I feel like they landed that. Yeah.
There was one other tiny little heart moment, which I sort of was just like a little aside. It's in the primal section when I think it's like night and it's raining and Marge sort of wakes up because she can hear the wolf.
Yeah.
Caveman Homer is just sleeping, cuddled up with Maggie. And like, it's just really cute. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Homer does love Maggie.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will say with the primal moments, they're kind of difficult to talk about because, much like the series, it's largely dialogueless. But I felt like, if we're talking heart, they did some amazing moments of like the children looking in peril and Marge then coming to their defense and like all the facial animations that they were using were really well done. I think I've said a lot of negative things about this episode, but I need to highlight that, the animation work that they did on these segments was really effective, and you got the emotion of Marge defending her kids all these times.
I think I'll add to that, sticking the sort of the look and feel of the primal, because I mean it's hard to, when you've been animating in a certain style for so long, to like switch to another style and keep it consistent. But I feel like they did it pretty well in this as well, and like there was definite, like, it was Simpsons-ized, but it was like definitely not The Simpsons. Like, it was very like specific, and I think they like nailed the look for it in order to make it a good compromise.
Kind of surprised they didn't employ the studio that does Primal, because it was a very significant shift and it looked good. So I kind of assumed they hired someone else for it. But no, it's interesting to know they did it in-house.
Again, as far as I know, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seemed to be the case, especially because, fuck, what did I say his name was before? The creator.
Andy Tartakovsky.
Meryl Streep.
Acknowledged them on Instagram after the fact, yeah. But speaking of which, ultimately, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons, despite feeling half like Primal?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the characters are just a little too out. Like, I don't feel like Marge is quite Marge and Bart's not quite himself either.
In another instance of an alternate Marge actually being a good use for Julie Kavner's current voice, Marge going Primal worked for that.
Yep.
That sounded so mean. I love you, Julie Kavner. I just want the best for you, I swear.
Actually, one of my notes was like, I wonder what the bonus that they paid Julie Kavner was in order to be like, you need to sound really angry in this scene. Like, you need to sound furious. You need to.
Are they just trying to plop on the straw, to break the back here? Like,
like
she's like, it really makes me stronger.
Because that scene when Bart first tells her what Luann said about me, she's not quite yelling like Dan Cass yells, but she's about as yelling as I think Julie can get. And I just was like, oof. That has got to hurt the voice, like, after all these years. So I was like, imagine there's like, we'll give you another $1 million if you do it.
Yeah. Oh, poor Marge. Yeah. But I think I agree with you, PT. Like, there's just too many sort of outside elements for this to feel totally like a Simpsons, and it's like, not to do with the Primal crossover or whatever here. Like, that element of it, I think, works for the most part, but there's just a lack of cohesiveness going on in the Simpsons story for that element to totally work. Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more the Luann Marge fight just doesn't fit or work properly. And it should. The pieces are there, they're just not focusing on the right parts.
And the history is there, and the everything is there, Yeah. But yes, no, would you watch this one again?
Yeah, I mean, it's still interesting. I do like the Primal bits. I don't know if there's anything new to mine from it, but it's not, I enjoyed it for the most part.
I don't think I'd immediately turn it off, but not seek it out, not turn it off. If it's on, it's on.
There's probably a Marge and Luann, the Simpsons and the Millhouses that you could build an interesting playlist. I know that Little Orphan Millie episode is half-liked. I think we gave it a split ranking, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to say you could build a playlist, and I certainly wouldn't not include this one.
Just any sort of like Van Houten conflict playlist, like a Millhouse Divided or wherever, like all of them one, like you could put in together.
Yeah, or whatever the Art of War, I think, where they argue over the painting.
Yeah, that's a good one. Season 25's probably best episode. But what would you like to change? How we improve it, BT?
I think just change how that argument comes about and its focus and what we do with it. So I like the idea that, Luann says, Bart just doesn't get any better. And Marge be like, he's still my special guy. He's really trying. There's something else to grapple onto there. That she keeps defending Bart. The idea that she starts chasing these tickets really doesn't work for me, because she's at that point, she's only trying to one-up Luann. She's not trying to defend Bart. And that's kind of my problem. But if you want to keep that, we even just said, have a moment where the concert starts and both of them, after reconciling, go, oh, we shouldn't have brought them at all. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's very low-hanging fruit, that one. So, and a few other little bits and tweaks, but those are my main points.
How about you, Jordan?
I suppose, if you were going to do this episode, I feel like the first thought that you would write down is that Homer is the sort of primal caveman one, and Marge is like the one that thinks and stops him from doing those things, because that's what their dynamic is in real life a lot of the time. But I guess they wanted to just switch it up so that, like you said, it's a huge integrity break for Marge to just be like, no, I'm just, doing these wild sort of things to, for pretty stupid reasons in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And that doesn't hit. But would it be too boring if you made it that Homer is the one that really wants to defend Bart's honor? I don't know. Like, we didn't get to see that episode, because Homer in this one is almost like he's there as a background character almost, when really, like, they've depicted Homer as a caveman many times before.
Many.
So, like, I don't know why they didn't do it that way. I guess, yeah, because, like I said, maybe that's too obvious. But I wouldn't mind seeing that script and seeing if it works maybe a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we talk about not wanting episodes about other characters to become the Homer show, it makes way more sense for Bart to say to Homer, Luann called me a hopeless kid, and for him to get so mad, like, oh yeah, we'll show her, we'll get the best tickets in the house to that concert. That feels like one of his moves.
Yeah, that's an impulsive Homer thing, not an impulsive Marge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or that she doesn't end up finding out about the trebuchet as well. Like, I'm trying to remember that episode. Like when George Bush moves next door, you didn't tell me you destroyed his memoirs. Anyway, and starts fighting with Bush again.
Yeah.
Like, where was that moment for Marge? Because, you didn't tell me you broke her trebuchet and blamed it on Milhouse, Because that's a significant thing. And, like, I feel like that's just the episode has all these pieces here that, like, exist and are ready to go that just aren't joined for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, like, it kind of does the primal elements a disservice, where that's just, like, a simple story told well, then making it this parallel or metaphor to relate back to this Simpsons story is the part that's not working for me, because there's so much that it just doesn't actually work about the Simpsons thing. And, while there's some nice-ish moments that land occasionally, it's not enough to feel cohesive. And just start the puzzle again. You connected some wrong elements, and you need to start with the corners.
You put the wrong IKEA screw in, and now you need to undo half of it to get it back.
Redo that, yeah.
You got some of the way there. Look, just go back to step 4. Start again.
Yeah.
If you haven't hammered anything in, you're all good.
All right, it is time for our final notes.
Now it's time for our final notes. Everyone's final notes. Classic.
Jordan, do you have some final notes for us?
I do. One, when they're in the movie theater and like they're like, cool, like dinosaurs, and the dinosaur's like, it was the end of the dinosaur age, and they gets turned into a puddle. And I only noticed it because of the captions. One of the kids goes, "Oh, fiddlesticks." So, like, do kids these days still say fiddlesticks?
No, but I like that as a
Things are coming back around again, man.
consarnate.
Yeah, true.
The kids wearing their Crocs are going to be saying fiddlesticks and running their hoop and stick.
Use it saving to a 3.5-inch floppy, and
exactly. Come
retro, man.
There's no fucking way that idiot Kirk felt a double dribble through the floorboards. That was very wacky. We forgot about that.
Stupid fucking cutaway joke, which was dumb and fucking crap.
Yeah, no, that's not work, because like there's no way he felt that the person touched the ball with both hands before, like in between it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not getting into
is that what a double dribble is?
Double dribble is, you're not allowed to pass it between your hands while like before it touches the floor. So you got to like.
Oh, it's meant to go hand bounce back to other hand, not.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you can't touch it with both hands and then like start dribbling again. Yeah.
That would be like a non-dribble than a double dribble.
Well, it's double because it's both hands, double.
Okay.
Anyway.
I always interpret it as meaning like you drop the ball for a dribble, but then you hit it again before it hits the ground, and then you can like.
Yeah, well, if it's with your other hand, technically, yes, that is still one.
Allowed.
But it's you can only touch it with one hand while you're dribbling. Anyway, that's so
Jordan's
interesting.
Sports Corner.
Sports Corner with Jordan Frost.
I did like
segment. Look out for it.
Marge bitching about Milhouse.
Yes.
Where it's like, I hate that kid. He's always making me watch him moonwalk and then crying in the toilet when I don't like
I don't applaud.
Dweebing
really
up
good.
the place,
Yep.
I really liked the gradually like aggressive increasingly aggressive, I should say, like names for like the StubHub clones that they had, which was Seat Predator, Stub Dork, Seat Dweeb, Ticket Chump, and Venue Idiot.
Yep.
Because it's like that's how you feel for buying one of these things off the website, I guess, sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Especially like it is such a worse problem in America. And like, when I was over there and tried to get tickets for Yoko Ono on a Seat Dweeb style site, I totally got scammed. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. There was a couple of sign gags that were pretty cool. One was like when they're doing their fantasy football draft, Kirk is wearing a hat happily that just says, "I suck at fantasy football" on it. Like, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
That feels like that's like a punishment for like losing the previous
for being the worst.
season.
Yeah. Probably. And then the other one I really liked was for the parent teacher evening. it had the sign out the front of the school for an establishing shot, and then underneath it said, "Legal guardian, get lost," which is I like.
Brutal. Yeah, just going back to the fantasy football thing, I felt that was another dropped element of the story, that Homer and Kirk were having to,
get along. Yeah.
Still be friends and upon everything else.
Yeah, still trying to be friends behind Marge and Luann's back, and I thought that was going to tie into the thing at all, but it didn't.
No,
it should have. It was a good idea.
I mean, I almost feel like that should have been like Luann and Marge finding out separately and being like, get those boys. Yeah.
Oh, dragging their husbands by the ear and, that would have been good. That's good old 50s comedy stuff right there.
Yeah.
Topical.
I didn't mind the motion that was put forward at the parent-teacher interview to be like, to ban books with, what was it? Not loose women.
Fallen women.
Fallen women, that's right. And it's obviously Agnes. And then so they say like, well, that's, marked down. And Wayskinner says it didn't have to go down like this because you just know she's going to bring some sort of fucking PTA nightmare down on their head.
And also in that scene was Kerry Washington returning as Miss Peyton.
Ah, yes. This sort of, I don't know, diss battle that Marge and Luann have was like, it was okay. But I really like the line that was most savage for me was like Marge going, "Have you ever been to her dusty home? You think nature abhors a vacuum?" I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good line, Marge. That's actually makes you think and laugh.
Even the cutting line of, "I always make Milhouse a lunch because I feel bad for him." Oh,
yeah, because Luann doesn't know that he lunch trades is the most. That was good. Speaking of food, the Marge planting potato chips in the people's handbags is like a decoy to be like, I think they've got outside food, and they're all like, security is rushing them and like pitting them to the ground. I'm like, that's how it does feel. Yeah.
And that's how you can sneak into concerts, people.
Yeah. And then the last one I had was just the sort of look of terror on Nelson's face when like they're covered in butter and Marge is like all bedraggled and dress ripped and her hair down or whatever. And like they're sort of saying like, "Mom, I mean, look at the person in the mirror." And Nelson's like, no, not me. I'm cool with you. Like, And I'm like, yeah, it's scary enough to make Nelson like worried that's probably a good indicator that you've taken things too far.
Or creepily enough, he's into it. Sorry, I like that word, but bedraggled. That's a good one.
Bedraggled.
Yeah, fear and arousal are often
bedraggled together.
So,
BT. Final notes.
So it's up when we start from the 4D theater. Marge isn't watching the movie and is instead scrolling notes from the homeowners association.
Yeah, so weird.
It was weird. It was a thing that had to tell us she was there, I suppose. But
and
it felt
talking to herself out loud.
Yeah, which also doesn't feel like her. And surely, like, if these messages on the homeowner association were from Luann, that would have been like an early piece. But it's not. So
and also, she was there meant to supposedly being a chaperone for the class, and she didn't even see her own son break the trebuchet. There's another drop story element.
Yeah. Yep. Especially because it was literally 10 steps from her. Like, he talks to her and then goes and straight does it. I mean, technically, Milhouse does help. He did sit in the little sling. But Barb was the one who turned the crank.
He took the fall.
Technically, he's
Marge should have been watching. Like, she was the chaperone.
Absolutely.
Especially her kid. She should have been watching the kids, but especially hers.
Who's the bad one in? Oh, yes, Bart. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, in the museum, both Bart and Milhouse are like in pants instead of their usual shorts. And there, you can see out the window it's winter, but that doesn't factor into anything else. Just an odd little thing.
Integrity break. The Simpsons don't wear pants.
Never pants. I do like when Bart's asking if he can go to this concert and Marge's like, "Oh yeah, sure," and then Lisa's like, "Oh no, he's playing you the censored version. Here's the real one with the translated lyrics." And Bart's like, "Why did you rap me out?" It's like, "Oh, maybe I should ask my melted Malibu Stacy with dog toy glued on."
Yeah,
okay.
An excellent comic timing of Santa's little helper to jump up and go.
Yeah,
that worked for me.
I like that she kept the little treat in the Kong. Like, she didn't attempt to take it out. Yeah.
She probably can't.
It's a dog toy now.
It's a dog toy now, yeah.
The Van Houtens have photos of them co-sleeping and co-bathing. That's unusual.
Really setting herself up for that criticism, wasn't she?
Yep. I did kind of like the bit where, Lisa lights a scented candle and is like, "There's no threat. Everything's fine." And then the curtains catch fire. She's like, "No threat. Nope."
I didn't mind the scent of her candle, Fresh Morning Airport. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
the Yankee candles have a candle for everything, don't they?
They truly do.
The Yeah, that was all my notes.
All right. I think just a bit that you should have cut and left out and maybe put an intro into this episode.
Sorry.
Yeah?
Oh, no. Sorry, you said I should have cut it out.
Not you.
Oh, you're talking to the people who make the show. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yes, because they're definitely listening. And, you know, as always, we are talking directly to the creators.
Hey, look, they've made changes that you've suggested, so
they
you
really
never know.
They're like I said, they're totally listening. So, yes, heed my advice. Yeah, the whole bit with Grandpa and the Grandpa caveman and walking out when there's, you know, not enough food to go around, and then the real Grandpa coming back to watch the kids. He's coming in from the rain. Anyway, that whole thing sucked. Reminded me of that intro to that episode where Homer just strangles his grandpa. And I was on a certain Simpsons forum recently where a certain Simpsons podcast was reviewing that, and they were like, "What'd you think of this episode? We thought it was pretty good." And I'm like, "That opening scene was pretty fucking harrowing, wasn't it?" And they were like, "Yeah, but it was a reference to The Sopranos, so it's actually pretty clever." And it's like, no.
Was it?
It's an episode that starts out with Homer killing his father and there's no fucking context for it.
This is supposed to be a funny comedy cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to reference Sopranos, you don't just do a shot for shot. You make it funny in a way, right?
Yeah, and unlike this, it wasn't a metaphor for something else going on in the episode, hence the reference. No, it was just, Sopranos is a thing. Let's have Homer kill his dad.
And it was also like, okay, back in this episode, the primal metaphor, this could have been a point where the two ideas were diverging, because one is the, you know, elderly of the tribe walking out to save the younger ones, whereas here it's like, oh, but they don't appreciate Grandpa in this world. It's like, oh, if it's not meant to be juxtaposition, then it should be, you know, not parallel, whatever words I can't think of.
Again, it's just depressing elder abuse otherwise if there's no other greater meaning behind it.
And I guess that did kind of bring up a point we haven't mentioned. There's not a lot of laughs in this one.
No, there isn't. Like, most of the positive things I have to say about this is like, animation was pretty neat. That was a nice shot. I liked the emotion on that they drew.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might be on my note. So I guess it must be time to rank this thing. On the Simpsons Index, we rank using a 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. Maybe if the episode was just, you give it a participant. But for the positive rankings, you got okay bronze, good silver, excellent gold. But for the best of the very best, you give cubic zirconia. I'm going to go first. Let me show you how it's done. I'm giving this one a big old bronze, just much like Primal. This one's based on the Bronze Age.
Don't write
I'm getting some big nods from my co-hosts here.
No, I have to vocalize no. Anyway, continue, please.
Look, this one's buoyed by the strength of the primal bits and held down by the thing of the Simpsons. Doesn't quite get it into totally negative territory for me, because much like a lot of new Simpsons, I appreciate they're trying something. But yeah, I don't think we're quite at the point where it feels like they're just trying it just to try something. But
yeah, this feels like, I agree.
BT,
they're not at the point yet of trying things just to try them, but this feels like it's starting to become the thing.
Yeah, this might be one of the tentpoles that you can put in and say, this is...
Yeah, that said, I quite liked all the primal bits. Wasn't too big on the main story, and there weren't quite a lot of laughs, and I felt the heart was kind of which really does make me feel like I should participant, because I did walk away on a bronze. I'm gonna still go with a bronze. I appreciate the effort that they're going to. The fact that it was done in-house as well is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing I'll add, is that's a bronze more on the way I felt when I walked away from watching this one. When you pick at it a bit, it goes, hey, this doesn't really work well, does it?
Yeah. But, it's interesting enough to warrant a view. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and maybe even a second view. Jordan.
Yeah, I up front, I'm going to say I think it's a bronze as well. I just want to comment on, so we said, they're trying something. Like, this is a show that it's in its 35th season, right? Like, how many times can you give them pass for trying something? Like, trying something is something you do in, season 7 or 8, when the show is like, oh, I don't know if we should still keep going or what. This is this is 3.5 decades later. I don't know how much longer we can keep giving them a pass for trying something and it not working. Like, they've got to just make a good show at some point.
I feel like that moment is coming. I'm not quite there with this newer batch of 34 era where they're playing with format.
Yeah. Like, I guess look, because if they're getting new production staff in, new writers, that kind of thing, sure. Like, I get it. But I mean, at some point, it's still there is a lot of money being poured into this. Like you expect a quality product sort of all the time for the amount that they must be paying they're like voice actors.
Yeah.
Either way, look, I think it was fine. It was okay. It was bronze, but yeah, like that was more on the fact of like, I liked the animation. I didn't think the story was that great. And the voice acting was like better than other late season stuff that we've heard recently where people seemed like they were phoning it in. This one at least had some passion behind some of the performance.
Yeah.
But still a bronze in the end.
All right, well, that'll equal a unanimous bronze. It'll be our second best episode from season 35 so far. It'll be behind the unanimous gold that was A Mid-Childhood Night's Dream. Another episode which we're trying something very different, but it's not a direct reference to something this time. It's like an episode that's mostly told through the space of Marge's dream about her insecurity about the kids growing up. And
Lucy dreaming.
yeah, it's a very well done, very ouch my heart sort of episode. And yeah, all the rest of them so far from season 35 are a mix of participants and shiny participants. Is The Simpsons back?
Clearly.
IGN says yes. How many episodes have you done of season 35 so far?
This will be our 7th.
All right, okay, so it's not a huge sample size yet, but for this to be the second best so far.
Yeah, and it's a shorter season as well because of all the strikes going on last year. Anyway, Jordan, thank you very much for joining us again.
Of course, I'm happy to be here with you fine people.
I forgot to ask, usually at the top of the show, we ask our returning guests, have you been keeping up with the show? Have you dipped back in?
Yeah, I watched this episode.
What a coincidence, we were reviewing it today.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was like, oh, I should watch this one before I join the podcast. No, look, I'm media saturated. I think, as I said last time, I'm like, there's a lot. So no, I haven't. It's like, when you go out to like looking for a restaurant and on Google, you're like, well, I want it to be at least 4 stars. It's like that where I'm like, New Simpsons. Oh no, I want to watch something that has at least like, a 7.5 on IMDb, which I'm not sure any of the New Simpsons does. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mid-Childhood Night's Dream, I reckon.
That one might do. So like that one might be tempted, but like I'm not going to watch the whole season. I just watch the good episodes, if anything. But maybe
on
I
this
might.
Fabulous spreadsheet.
Yeah. Well, people can go check that out at thesimpsonsindex.com and find links to all the other stuff we're doing. Like, what else can they get for free these days, BT?
For free these days, they can check out Starring Springfield. This is another podcast where we review movies that star the cast of The Simpsons. So there's, 3 episodes up at the moment?
Yeah, it used to be a paid podcast, but it still is. You can get early access to episodes over on our Patreon, but yeah, we're releasing Starring Springfield out into the podcast feeds. All the links are in the show notes. But yeah, we just dropped our episode about The Twilight Zone, the movie, and we get into all the cursed and fucked things from that production.
I forgot about all that.
Yeah, but then there's also fun segments to talk about where, because they've done a couple of Treehouse of Horrors that have referenced segments that were in Twilight Zone, the movie, like the gremlin on the side of the bus, that was based on a Twilight Zone. That's reviewed in this movie. And also, what do they call it, Paige? It's a Good Life. It's a Good Life. So the kid with all those gnarly powers, which coincidentally stars Nancy Cartwright in that movie.
So do you want to know what Nancy Cartwright looks like as a human being and sounds like when she's not Bart? Go find out.
Yeah.
And also listen to the relevant podcast because...
but yes, also, like I said, we're doing a bunch of stuff over at our Patreon. So yeah, you'll get early episodes of Starring Springfield there. And yeah, we're making a whole bunch of new and different podcasts. We're doing some experimental stuff. What's something we did lately, BT?
I mean, we've got Except When He's Not, which is one where Elliot catches me up on all the episodes I missed. But if you're tired of my stupid voice, we also just talked about what our top 10 Switch games were. And just a quick rundown of those that ended up being an hour long because we like to talk about stuff.
No, that was it. I was like, this could probably kill half an hour. And then was like, oh yeah, we're talking about something we like. We went on for a little while. So go check that out at patreon.com/sidequeststudios. Links are in the show notes. But until then, once again, thank you, Jordan Frost.
Thank you.
And thank you, BT
That's
Calloway.
all. Sorry.
Unga bunga.
Yes, and I've been your host, Elliot J. O'Neill. That's all the purple snake meat in the cave.
Yum.
Yum, yum. Well, snake.
More snack for me.
Purple snake.
Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. You can also check out our other shows, like Pulp Fury Radio, our scripted fiction podcast, which tells all original stories across a range of pulp genres, and Thrones of Game, where we review Game of Thrones in reverse order. Links to those podcasts and more will be available in the show notes. And now please stay tuned for the bonus scenes! I do have to quickly step out because apparently I have a low blood sugar. I don't feel it yet, but the computer in my arm says I'm slowly dying. I'll be right back.
The app says so.
What, you're going to trust your body to a computer? They wouldn't do the same for you.
Hey, he was just saying, he got recommended Love, Death, and Robots,
Yeah. Well, we might get 2 of those on tonight's program. We've already got one.
To see more.
Yeah. Either Elliot and I fall in love or Beach dies. Vote now.